Hello, Tom Vicky here with the latest edition of the New Theory Podcast. Oh man, I wish I was recording this conversation before, but we're going to do our best to rehash. I'm with Vicky LLerna from Social Media Vibes here in Kearney, New Jersey. She's like myself. She owns and runs an agency. There's a lot of similar things that we do over at X Factor New Theory. And what we're going to do is I want to talk to her about her professional life, what she's doing in order to succeed. How is it being a female in kind of, tech and marketing? I want to learn a little bit about what her motivation is and what makes her tick. And most importantly, dissect her success factors. Vicky, welcome to the New Theory Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. And just a correction, Tom, on my introduction, it's Social Vibes Media.
Ooh, Social Vibes Media. See, people keep telling me I don't do notes on the people before because I want it to be organic, but I probably should at least look at the names. Okay, beautiful. All right, so let's start it off. So, Vicky, you own a very successful agency, but prior to doing agency work, what were you doing before?
Picking up garbage. No, I'm kidding.
Right?
No, I'm kidding. So prior to launching the agency, I was working for corporate. So I was 6 years with PR Newswire, which are like the pioneers,
wow. Okay, yeah.
wire distribution services. Finishing my undergraduate degree, not knowing what to do. I got a level entry job that turned into full-time, then transitioned into promotions in different departments. Nice. Within my time at PR Newswire, this is back when no one knew what the hell is Twitter and why are these journalists opening up all these social media accounts? And so during my time at PR Newswire, I learned the ins and outs of multimedia press releases, video, gathering social profiles and how you can actually pitch to journalists through their Facebook, through their Twitter, how the traditional press release was now being transformed into a multimedia press release. So you added text with video, with infographics, and how people were engaging with that sort of content. This was all concepts totally new to me. But it was great. I've learned tons my time there. So I was finishing my undergrad in journalism, and then I graduated with a journalism degree, and then I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I want to be a journalist.
Writer by background.
Yeah, writer by background. Okay. I want to be a journalist. I want to save the world. This was back when Obama, the Yes We Can era, and change that we believe in. And so I became so indulged in that political sphere. So then I remember thinking to myself, right, I'm done. I'm here working corporate. What the hell am I going to do? So I decided to get my master's. Just because this is a natural thing you do, right? So I did. I finished a master's degree in political science and Rutgers, and then I was yes, I felt like an achiever. So then I went to HR at PR Newswire. I was done. Here's my master's. Do I get a raise? And then they look at me and they're no, your degree doesn't apply to the job that you're in. So there I was, fulfilling my 9-to-5 duties. I was moved into the editorial department. I started creating training modules and training the editorial staff. And then I just got to a point, Tom, I was miserable. I was miserable. I got so sick of it. And oh man, it just transports me to that time that I felt I couldn't figure out how to get out of this place or space.
Okay, so this is where, and it's good you gave an expansive background, so we appreciate it.
Yeah.
It saves me on questions.
Yeah.
So the nice thing is you were hey, I need to do more. I want to do more. Now I want it to be applicable to the person listening. Yeah. So did you start a side hustle while you're PR Newswire?
Yeah.
Now hopefully it doesn't matter, right? Won't get in trouble. Mm-hmm. And sort of side hustle and graduate into it, or did you no, screw this, let me jump in full time? How did you start off?
Mm-hmm. So my side hustle was teaching college classes.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So in order for me to get out of the rat race, I needed. I did Hudson County. I called the local community college. Cool, I started there teaching the college comp classes and the technical writing classes, and then from Hudson County Community College, I then started teaching at St. Peter's University. From St. Peter's, I did NJIT.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So as an adjunct professor.
As an adjunct, this is insane. Just imagine you're a 22 years old in front of college kids that look like you. Yeah, it's so my first day of class, I was in the elevator and there's
Wait, you're your master's by 22?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. So my first day of class, like I'm walking into the elevator, and then there's like a young guy, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Devin. Where you headed to?" And I'm like, "Oh, room 202." He's like, "Nice to meet you. I'm one of the students there." And I'm like, "Nice to meet you. I'm your professor." He's like, "Oh, wow." So I did that for like a whole year and a half, so I can save 9 to 5, leave work, and then head to class from 6 to 8:30, pushing 9. And I did that for a year and a half while raising a baby girl.
Oh, that's right, because your daughter was newly born, right, back then?
Yes, yeah. She was little. She was tiny. And I just set that goal. Like, Vicky, just work your ass off for one whole year so you have enough money in your bank account to say, I'm done.
Okay, so having a child earlier on, right? How did it affect your entrepreneurial and professional decisions? How did it affect it, and what were those results?
All right. So you have to keep in mind, when I was going to college, I'm 32. Like, there's no such thing as entrepreneurial. Like
no
that concept didn't exist. Like, I have no clue. Like,
it did just had a much higher barrier to entry, I think.
Yeah, okay. No, it did, right? Of course it did, right? But it wasn't something you talked about in college. Like, you never said, I'm going to college to be an entrepreneur, right? So it just didn't exist. What I knew is that there had to be a better way of life. That's all I knew. Like, how am I going to get there? I just have to figure that out. I had no clue.
Okay. So you taught for a little bit. You worked at PR Newswire. If I'm just doing the math, you said you're 31? 32. And you started your agency late 20s, right?
Late 20s.
Okay, so what was that point where you're like, screw this, I need to start my agency, and how did you start it?
At what age you're asking?
Yeah, like at what age roughly? And then
it was like during the late 20s. We used to sit in a cafeteria, me and my former fiance. He worked at the corporate, same PR Newswire. And I said, I just want to do something. And he goes, why don't you just start doing PR work? You know how to pitch. You have the access to the database at PR Newswire. You have all the journalists. So that's what I did.
Cision now owns them, yeah?
Yeah, Cision now owns them. Cision owns PR Newswire. So that's what I did. I started freelancing for friends and family, getting them on like the local paper, local TV, drafting their bios, the press releases.
Wait, so hold on. I got to jump in.
Yeah.
So that is a widely and hugely coveted service.
Yeah.
And you started doing that as a launch point. And I don't want to jump too far ahead to what you're doing now, but why don't you do a lot of that now? Yeah,
so keep in mind, when I was working for PR Newswire, who were PR Newswire clients? They were like Microsoft and like Dell and like enterprises. So that doesn't easily translate into your average solo practitioner working for the school theater program and the small business owner. So when I started PR services, when I left PR Newswire, started PR services, small businesses failed to acknowledge or see the value in PR, in getting featured. And so they didn't understand ROI. It was a hard pitch. KPIs were difficult to identify. And so that, to me, was not profitable as far as a business, as far as a solo practitioner who's trying to push the business.
So social media was low-hanging fruit. Like when you started your agency, did you do social media? Did you do PPC?
No, I kind of stumbled with social media because of the name Social Vibes Media. Okay. I became almost like associated immediately with you do social media. But I actually started doing videos. That was like my service after PR.
Were you doing more content creation for social media, or were you doing content creation and social media?
I wasn't doing any social media. I wasn't doing any. It was just an association. Despite the name. Okay. So after I miserably failed, I'd say the first 2-3 years of the business, I got into debt, almost $15,000 in debt. Wow. Yeah, me and my fiance separated during that time. We were trying to figure out a share of the business. Yeah. He stayed with corporate. I, left and stayed with the business. We were working from our basement apartment that we renovated, and we purchased a 2-family house. It was terrible. It was so terrible. It was like at a breaking point, right? It's a super breaking point. But so then I had to switch gears, and I started to focus on videos. Videos was tangible. It's something you can see, something you can touch. You show the client, they're like, oh, wow, that's our stuff. So I remember the first big account I got was NJCU. Sweet. That was nice. Yeah, that was nice. We've done at least 5, we're on our 6th project with them. them. Super
wow.
cool. Yeah. Like the biggest video account. And then I saw like, okay, when I started to do that, people were asking, do you do websites? Do you do social media? Do you do SEO? And then that's how I started working with these other services. Not PR. Despite the PR background.
Got it. Okay. So that makes sense. So you kind of went with what was available or presented to you versus necessarily saying, here's what I do. Right?
I think it was more of really acknowledging your market demands. Not really so much what was available. I'm sure if I would have stuck to PR and figured out what markets needed PR.
That's what I was saying. I was saying you were focusing on what people need versus what you do. So
right.
All right. So there's some learnings here. One is, when you start an agency, or if you decide to do it, I think you should always do it part-time until you can get enough going. Number 2 is don't shoot where you eat. Just kidding. That's always tough. And then number 3 is really kind of identify your voice and everything else. So fast forward to now 3-4 years, and this is sensitive to me because I recently got divorced and I'm spending a lot more time with my kids. And I just, have an appointment that conflicts with parenting time. And this is all new to me. So like, how do you juggle entrepreneurial life and still being a really great mom?
There's no such thing as balance. I hate those books that advocate for find the balance and the inner peace and love the work and passion and still enjoy your family. Like, brutal truth, it just doesn't exist. And sometimes I take the hit. Like, I'm still a single mom. I'm still raising a 12-year-old daughter, and I take the hit. It affects my personal life. It's hard for me to date. It's the truth. You know what? My social life is prospecting for clients, is identifying partnerships, attending events, attending galas, attending dinners, and my personal life is my professional life, and that eliminates a personal dating life, and I'm comfortable with that. I chose to take on this lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. I chose it, like it's not something that I have to do. It's something that I chose to do. Now, does it interrupt a personal life and a balance? Absolutely, but it comes with the territory.
Okay, so that makes sense. And then how do you balance? So you're doing well, right? And I want to acknowledge that. But like if you stayed in corporate, or if you kind of stayed the path, maybe now Cision or whatever, right. You probably would be making similar money, maybe even more, but be done at 5 and be able to go home. So how important is freedom to you, and how important is again, even though they always say you work 80 hours a week to not work 40 as an entrepreneur. So I get that and I do that. So how important is your freedom at this point versus the opportunity cost of working, let's say, in corporate and making a lot more per se? You know what I mean? Like, how important is that?
Yeah. So I hear that question a lot, and I feel like freedom is such like an abstract thing. Like, how important is your freedom? I get it.
Give us. I want you to wake up. I want to wake up. I want to know what time you woke up.
No, that's terrible because I have business friends that make fun of me if I tell you the time I wake up.
I want to know your day.
Yeah.
To now, and then what you're going to be doing for the rest of the day.
Yeah. So this, you know what?
What time do you get up?
Yeah. So brutal truth, I will be up by 9, but I'll probably hit the gym and won't head to my first meeting or office until like 11:30.
That's where your business, like for example, if you have to be somewhere. And who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so you wake up a little later. I thought it's 4 a.m.
I know. No, that's what all my business friends think. Like, what? No way. Like, we're up by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. because that's like the mentality that you need.
By the way, I'm gonna post Vicky's photo, and we're gonna do a video one too. But like looking at you respectfully and your personality, 'cause I know you a little bit. Yeah. I thought she'd be up at 4, so I kind of like you're a little different. You're a little different than I thought you were in that respect. So that's good. Yeah. So you wake up a little later, you get the gym in, and then do you go to the office every day? Do you work from home? What do you do?
I'll go to the office. I'll work from home, or I will pick up client meetings. Okay. So every day varies, every day.
Okay. So here's the other thing too, and you're evolving as an agency owner. In the beginning, I was really at my accounts a lot more. I thought I needed to be there. I thought I needed to be present. Mm-hmm. And then over time, it was more like about results and obviously be available when they are. Yeah. So it's kind of like, hey, what's going on? So how have you evolved in your kind of project management? And then what amount of time do you set to bring on new accounts?
So how can I answer then like a simple question? I think the most valuable skill that I found, and I'm still learning and fine-tuning, and that I fail to acknowledge that I needed and everyone needs, is negotiating skills. Sure. When you figure that out, you can figure out PMing, you can figure out closing deals a lot faster, you can figure out and identify potential partnership opportunities. Sure. But people don't solo practitioners, small businesses don't realize the value in perfecting your negotiating skills. Sure. Like rhetoric is everything. Sure. Is everything.
Sure. So hold on. Give us, what's the best deal in hindsight that you negotiated? You don't have to give specifics if you're not comfortable, but give us a situation, something negotiated that could have went either way. And what's one of the better deals you negotiated over the last maybe 5 years?
I mean, the one that I can think of right off the bat is NGCU. When a client can just call you and you meet once and they're like, send us invoice. Beautiful. And they paid. That to me is awesome. What's the worst deal you negotiated in hindsight? When a client says, cool, send me invoice, they pay, and they're like, wait, we want this, and that.
Yeah. So I always say, if you're listening this far along, you're either very interested in the topic, family, or a stalker, or both. Just kidding. Yeah. So with that being said, is if those in out of industry and agency, but this is called scope creep. You say, hey, we're gonna do this, and all of a sudden, like they start, like, hey, can you do this, and hey, can you do that, hey, can you do that? And me personally, is I am all over the place as a human, as a person, those who know me. So I tend to, on inbound, say yes to everything, and then it winds up not being profitable or winds up hurting my business. Right. So how have you dealt with scope creep over the last few years, and how do you deal with it now?
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing that I realized in our industry, Tom, is that we're not just marketing consultants, we're not just web designers or video people, right? We almost become like the emotional marketing therapist to our clients, but I didn't realize that how much of an emotional attachment and commitment and set of expectations like your clients have towards you. Like it's like you should be doing this, or like I was expecting this, or like we need this done. Can you get it done? And they don't understand. They're looking at it more of like an emotional expectation of what Tom should be doing, or Vicky and her team should be doing. They're not taking into consideration, our contractual obligations, or what you're requesting would require outside of scope of work to what you agreed upon. So almost like I'm starting to realize is like we're almost becoming the emotional marketing therapist to our clients. Yeah, and we have to be sensitive to that.
Okay, best day of your life. Other than meeting me, of course. Best day of your life.
Best day of my life. When I opened my eyes and found myself alive, laying in a hospital bed after I was hit by a drunk driver the summer of July 3rd, 2017.
Jesus Christ.
And I was still alive.
God bless. Okay, I was going to say, what's the worst day of your life, other than meeting me? Worst day of your life.
Worst day of my life? It could have been the last day of my life. It was that car accident that changed my life. Yeah, we were leaving a gala, and on MacArthur Highway at Newark, and I wasn't driving that night. I was seated behind the driver, and we were struck by a drunk driver who was operating an SUV, and the car went total 360. Our car wheels came off, dashboard windows exploded, and I was ejected from the vehicle and thrown into the highway. I have no recollection of the event. Those that were present and by my body recall the details of what I said and how I asked about my daughter, even though my daughter wasn't present at that accident, and how she wasn't, how I insisted to put my shoes on and go home, and how they had to somehow convince me that I shouldn't move my body, that I should wait until the ambulance comes, and and how I was having a conversation with the person that stayed by my body, and I don't recall the details of that. I just remember opening and closing eyes.
So people act differently when they have near-death experiences.
Yeah.
You know, some they're like, fuck it, like some decisions because like, I almost died, I'm on borrowed time.
Right.
Where others like, let me be conservative because I don't want to go nowhere near that again. How has that particular event affected your decisions, and what were some of those outcomes?
So I got whole life insurance.
The next day, Allstate, hello.
I got whole life insurance for me and my daughter. I opened up stock accounts.
Yeah.
I started working with my attorney for, just God forbid anything happened to me.
You have a will?
Will,
See,
yeah.
you have a will. I'm 43. I don't. I need a will.
Yeah. And then I started looking at more ways of creating revenue that did not require me to be there present, such as passive income.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we know that you run a successful agency. We know that it's your passion. You love doing it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned also passive income. So what are some of the things you're doing to maybe to diversify, to not be so reliant on active revenue?
Mm-hmm. Definitely one of the simple ways is just to connect with a financial advisor. They don't cost you anything. They make money if you open up an account. So even sitting down with one will not cost you a penny, and you can identify ways of contributing on a monthly basis and then growing those accounts. I also started investing with Fundrise, which is a real estate investment portfolio. Now they're at 9 to 12% return.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I stayed away from the more traditional old school CD accounts and leave money in your savings account. Screw that, and now also identifying a potential, just purchasing a property for rental income. And people don't realize, but there are ways to do that with very little down, hard money lending. Yeah. Now the rates have been a lot better since it's more competitive market. Correct. Working with investors, if you identify a property for an investor, you get the kickback commission, and you don't have to put your name on the mortgage. Yeah. There's so many ways to make money. There's so many ways to make money, but it takes time to research it.
All right, so you are looking at the real estate as a passive income. You have a very successful agency. So what's next for your company? What are you looking to get, more clients for existing services? Are you doing different offering and services? Yeah. How you look to scale and grow your business?
Yeah, so I'm going to do a plug-in. We are hiring salespeople. If you're interested to be part of a growing agency, millennial-based agency based out of New Jersey, and you have a passion in just being part of a dynamic team, I'm going to do my plug-in. Connect with me. Hit me up. We're interested in you.
Okay, so we're going to be wrapping it up. What is a question that I didn't ask you that you wish I did?
Yeah. So I hate when people give backlash, social media, no, that's drama to your life and problems with your girlfriend and your wife and screw it, man. You have no idea how many connections and potential partnerships, opportunities, and influencers I connected with by simply putting up a post of value. Yeah. I'll give you one example. I read my favorite book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and I just freaking posted a picture and I tagged him as my top 3 favorite books. Yeah. He hits me up the next day and says, thank you so much for the shout out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Chris, I loved your book. It was awesome. I would love to connect with you. And he's like, actually, I will be in the city next week if you wanted to connect and just have coffee.
Like lunch with your mentor, basically.
How much would people pay to have dinner with Chris Voss? And I freaking picked that man's brain you have no idea. Awesome. You have no idea. And then he's like, Vic, I was like, Chris, what can I do for you? He's like, Vic, I'm trying to do a podcast. Yeah. And the people I hired, they charged me tons of money and then they abandoned the project. Yeah. Now I hired an intern and I had her research on how to start a podcast. I'm like, no, dude, I will connect you one of the best podcasters I know. I think his name is Travis something. Met him at the Disrupt event. Yeah. And he did. He connected with them. It went well, I guess, that call. Yeah. And he's like, Vicky, what can I do for you? And that's how it works. Yeah. It's a reciprocal relationship, but based on one social media post.
Correct.
So
So hold on, but my question was, what didn't I ask you that you would want me to ask more about your social media? What didn't I ask you that you wish I did?
What didn't you ask me? Related personal or social?
Whatever you want. What didn't I ask you that you wished I asked you?
What didn't you ask me?
That you wish you did. They wish I did.
You know, it's like what they call, is this a trick question? I don't know. I mean, honestly, I try and be as transparent as possible in my social media. I do. I give a little bit about, you know, who I am as a person, as a woman, as a family, as an auntie, as a mommy, as a business person. Yep. And I keep things exclusive to myself and a very private person, like a very, very private person.
Because you strike me as somebody who values privacy.
Sure, for sure.
But then yet you kind of do put yourself out on social
media.
So how do you strike that balance?
I block all the creeps. No, I'm kidding. How do I keep that balance? It's being selective of what I share. Yeah. You know, like what I share is what, if I choose to post it, I'm comfortable sharing. I'm comfortable sharing my family. I'm comfortable sharing my nieces and nephews. You know, I'm comfortable sharing some client meetings and partnerships and the places and the countries that I visit. But there are some things that I'm not comfortable sharing. And I'm okay with that, you know. And it's so funny because I think, you know, when I meet people for the first time, but we're connected on social media, it just feels like I've known them for years. They're like, oh my gosh, Vicky, when I see them, like it's a different dynamic. It doesn't feel like a cold meeting. And that's the beauty of social media, is it's allowed me to connect with people on a personal level. And I've never met them, or I will never meet them, but they become so engaged with like my life. And it's cool. Like, it's really cool that they become part of this journey. You know, the things I post from my nephews and nieces, and the funny things that happen at the job, and my day-to-day, and they'll engage with my questions. But it's an audience that I've built, and an audience that has connected with me. The hard part is you have to keep it going. Yes. You know, like, you have to keep it going. So you're this content creator, this storyteller, and they're engaged in your story. Well, let's not stop the story. You know, you can't. It's the algorithms. You have to keep you up, people engage. So that's the tough part that people don't realize, that content creators you have to be a creative. Correct. Yeah. So you have to, like, it's not just a picture of your family, but what does that picture share, that video share? Is there like pictures and videos that follow up after that? What does that story, you know? So
okay, hold on. So what was a post that you posted that you immediately regretted?
No, so I'll share one with you. So I was at the office last week. My daughter was off from school. So I started taking pictures of her doing like just random things.
Intern work, I saw that.
Yeah, intern, right. So I did like a sequence story of intern at the office. What intern wears sandals to work? Yeah. Interns eating donuts. Where did the intern go? Exactly. So throughout the whole day, I had people hit me up like, oh my gosh, this intern of yours is so crazy. Ha 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 ha. Who is she? It's insane. And the last post I put was, you know, it didn't work out with my intern. Are you interested? I had several people hit me up and ask me, what type of intern are you looking for? Yeah. And so I had to explain in my stories, you know, hey, that intern was my daughter. But it becomes like that sort of storytelling, you know, like your day-to-day can be so interesting, even if you think it's boring.
Got it. All right. So speaking of social media and your website, how can people find you, Vicky?
I'm on LinkedIn, Vicky LLerna, on Instagram, Vicky LLerna, Facebook. My Facebook maxed out on friends, so I have to delete some, but Facebook, Vicky LLerna, and connect with me.
Beautiful. Well, Vicky, thank you for being on. You're an inspiration as an entrepreneur, as a female entrepreneur, as a mother, as a friend, and check Vicky out. We known each other for a little bit, but I feel like I know her for a lot longer. That's why I really wanted to have her on the podcast, because I wanted to see kind of what made her tick and kind of diagnose her success factors. So for those listening, make sure if you're listening this long especially, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the New Theory podcast, as well as share Vicky's story with the world. Thank you so much.